This is one of those videos that I don't feel very comfortable making. And so, as you well know, when you have situations like that, people like myself, and I assume there's many people like that, you just don't want to put it off because you just want to get it over with and move on to things that are more comfortable in your life. And so that's the way I feel about this particular video. But it's talking about reincarnation and a lot of other issues that people don't talk about. And the reason they don't talk about it mostly is because for the most part, people don't know the truth. They don't know what reality is. That's probably the number one reason. The number two reason they don't talk about it is because the demonic forces of this world have taught just the opposite as being true. And so when you come out in opposition to what is recognized as factual, it causes discord. It causes all kinds of problems. So typically I do not, these particular things I'm going to talk about today, I generally don't talk about. And I may never talk about them again. Just want to get it out of the way, put it there. Anyways, reincarnation. First off, I was thinking about the role of a guru. And the reason I was thinking about that is because there's a few people, not very many, but a few people that email me directly to my email account rather than making comments in the video posts. And those are people that have taken the trouble and the initiative to find out what my email is in the first place. And so I guess it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease is another way to look at it too. But there's many different facets to your personal spiritual growth. And you're going to need a guru that is outwardly kind and loving. You're going to need a guru that has PhDs possibly. There's all sorts of stepping stones to your so-called eternal salvation or your eternal spiritual growth every step of the way. I mean, at one point you were 5 years old and you needed a different teacher to help you when you were 5 years old as versus when you were 25 years old. And so I am not denigrating the process. I'm not denigrating the demons for what they do in this world. I'm not denigrating Satan for what he does. Everything serves a purpose. On the same token, I will be crystal clear that Satan is not my friend, nor will Satan ever be my friend. I don't like that person. But whether I like that person or not has nothing to do with my respect for that person. So my point being is, I am not a guru that, first off, I'm not even a guru. But second off, I'm not one that would be thought of as a nice, kind, cuddly type individual. In fact, if you got to know me personally and we met together often as teacher and friend, call it however you want to base it. There's an extreme high likelihood that you would end up hating me. You wouldn't like me because of how harsh I would be with you. And so our relationship would come to an end at some point. Unless within you was such determination that, and you could dig beneath the surface and discover things that nobody else can see. And if that were true, then you would still be incredibly frustrated and incredibly, I don't know if angry is the right word, but yeah, you would not, it would be a situation where you would try to avoid being around me at all cost. But at the exact same time, you'd be drawn to me because you know I have something that you don't have. And so you have to force yourself to be around me. And if you were ever to break through that ego mind and etc., become enlightened, then we'd be extremely good friends. But that's a really hard place to get to in this particular world. What I do, and I explained this to, I think I just got done writing an email response to a person named Ben, if I'm not mistaken. I was writing to two people. But anyways, that what I do is not meant to develop the fruits of friendship, etc., in this particular life and in this particular world. What I'm doing, or what I am attempting to do, is the relatively few people in this world alive at this time that may somehow come in contact with me, spiritually speaking. Those people, I am laying the groundwork and sowing the seeds of spiritual growth that will manifest fruit in a future reincarnated life, not in this life. Or let's put it this way, not to any great degree in this life. What I do is say and show you truths that will piss you off to no end, and you will feel like retaliating if, in fact, you get that far. Most people never get that far. Most people just turn their back on me and go a different direction because they don't want to put themselves through the meat grinder, so to say, or they're so deluded in their belief systems that they think that I'm a liar, or who knows, whatever they create in their minds to give them the confidence to say I don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah, what I do is for future lives, in regards, of course, there's no such thing as time, but in regards to reality, if you were based it on this life, I'm laying the groundwork for your future life, possibly 1,000,000 years from now, or possibly 500 years from now, or 10,000 years from now. That's what I'm working on, because I personally have experienced reality beyond this kalpa of time. And so I know what the end is already. And so that's what I'm working on. I know that sounds idiotic, and I really don't give a damn what you think if you think it's idiotic, because it's real. So with reincarnation. Yeah, you reincarnated a million times. To get to the point where you're at right now, you have reincarnated probably a billion times in this kalpa of existence. And I'm only referring to this kalpa of time. Yeah, you've reincarnated at least a billion times. You were probably an ant at one time, and a bug, and a cricket, and whatever. It's like, you know what a connoisseur is, you know? You can have a wine connoisseur, and you have to drink a lot of different wines to be able to understand the flavors and the intricacies of different wines, to be able to be an expert in that field. I mean, you actually have to experience it. Without the experience of it, you cannot be an expert. You cannot be, you could take that to any extreme, meaning you can't be a good doctor without actually working on patients. You can't be a connoisseur of cigars if you don't smoke a lot of different cigars and know the different flavors. Likewise, you cannot be an experienced God without actually being every certain situation, being that thing. You've surpassed everything that there is on this planet already in this kalpa of time. The human being, make no mistake about it, is the top of the food chain, spiritually speaking. There's nowhere else for you to go in this kalpa of time, except for being reincarnated as a human being time after time. You don't go backwards. You're not going to be a cat next time. You're not going to be a Brahma cow, as Hindus, some idiotic thinking along that line. You don't go backwards. I mean, spiritually speaking, you can go backwards, but that's not backwards. That's forward. That's just going forward in a seemingly opposite, but it isn't opposite. For instance, if you deviate off and you start going towards the dark side or whatever, that might seemingly be going backwards, but it's only appears to be backwards. It's actually forward, because that's the essence of a person that is going to ultimately fulfill their core beingness of what their essence is. So if they're going to be evil, they'll gravitate in that direction. There's no going backwards. So spiritually speaking, you get to this point as a human being. You're not going to be a dog because you went backwards and you have to relive the life of a dog. That just doesn't happen. It isn't going to happen. That's just stupid. So yeah, you've reincarnated a billion times. And you're going to continue doing that. Now Buddha says, stop the wheel of samsara, stop the endless life cycle, and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what Buddha didn't understand. Buddha didn't understand that, you know, this life and everything, it isn't that, yeah, there's a lot of pain and misery, of course there is, but the reality is it's absolutely necessary for your eternal spiritual growth. And so Buddha was correct in saying that, well, he's going to stop his future lives or reincarnations and stuff. Yeah, that's ultimately true, because at each incarnation, you are at the helm. It's not like you die and your spirit goes somewhere and it's like, oh, you got to be thrown back down as a human being. No, I don't want to go. Please don't. Yeah, you're going, by God. And you know, that's not the way it works. The way it works is when you die and your spirit is well, and I shouldn't even say spirit, because that's not an accurate description. But your soul, if you will, is in I can't even say place because there's no physicality to it, but your soul is in a situation of awareness where you're not held to the ignorance level of an animal called a human being. You are in a situation of recollection of everything that you have accomplished thus far in your progression. And as such, the ignorance of, oh, I don't want to be born again because I don't want to be diseased and I don't want to be born in a country where pain and suffering. No, you don't see it from that limited perspective. What you see is an overall picture, and you go, oh yeah, damn it. I remember as a human being, I said I didn't want to be born again, but I'm lacking in this area, and so I guess I'm going to be born again, and I need to learn this, and I need to see what it is that I need to have further growth, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'll accept being born again. That's what essentially is taking place in reincarnation. And it goes on and on and on and on. In fact, you committed to this process in the very beginning of this kalpa of time. And it's not going to end until this kalpa of time is over. Now, we can take individuals like Jesus. Well, did he ever reincarnate again? Well, I don't know if he reincarnated again, but I would say certainly not as an avatar on this planet Earth, maybe somewhere else. I mean, to think that the end-all be-all is this planet Earth is ludicrous. There's an infinite number in this universe of planets and solar systems and galaxies and different dimensions and the astral plane, and I mean it's incredibly complex. And so where did Jesus go to reincarnate? I don't know, but he's certainly not sitting in a catatonic state in isolation somewhere. I mean, he's somewhere. His awareness is somewhere. It's incarnated somewhere. Maybe he's one with God right now. I don't know. But the reincarnation process or the development continues. And so you can't know what it's like to be a monkey if you were not a monkey. Now, as a human being, how does that come into play? Well, you think you're a human being. See, that's the problem with limited thinking as a human being. You think you're a human being, so everything in existence you relate to as a human being. But you're not a human being, you see? Your essence is incarnated in a human body, and you've got a human brain and mind and everything else. And so everything you relate to is related to as a human being. And you can't relate to anything that isn't a human being. But what you're not taking into account is, you go to sleep at night, for instance. Where in the hell do you go? Because your body is laying there in bed. It doesn't need you. It's doing just fine without you. I mean, just fine in regards to its sleeping, because the physical nature of a human body, of essentially every living creature, has to rest. It has to go to sleep to rest. And in doing so, it's doing just fine without your awareness, your essence, your spirit, your soul, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be in the human body. Where is it? Because you don't know where it is. Because every time you wake up as a human being, where did it go when you were asleep? Because you can't remember. And the reason you can't remember is because you weren't here, meaning in this physical realm as a human being. Because you're not here anyways, because there is no such thing as here. I'm going to get off on a quick tangent about No, I'm not. I'll get back to that later. Okay, so here's one thing that I'm going to talk about that is incredibly confrontational with most people in the world. The issue with when does the essence or soul of an individual enter the body of a baby, an infant, etc., etc. And a lot of people go, oh my gosh, you're killing a baby when you do an abortion, etc., etc. Well, you're killing a baby, but what does that actually mean? Because they would like to say, well, it's murder and this and that. Well, that's like saying, is it murder if you take blood cells out of your body and hit them with a hammer? Is that murder? A man has semen, and once it leaves the body, is it dead instantly? Of course not. So, and the egg of a woman, you could take that out of the body and fertilize it outside the body in a beaker. And I mean, when does the soul or the spirit of an individual enter into that zygote, for instance? Is that when it takes place? And of course, nobody knows because they've never gotten a straight answer from God because they're too arrogant and because they depend too much on science and everything. But the reality is the essence soul of a individual does not enter that body until that body takes a breath. That's the whole concept of what is kind of taught in different religious things. Of course, they don't understand what it means, but when a baby takes the first breath, that's when the spirit enters that body, not inside the womb of the mother. It isn't there. There's not two souls inside the woman, one in the baby and one in her. It doesn't happen any more than there are an infinite number of souls inside my body. I mean, there is, but there isn't. Does that make, and I'm going to confuse the hell out of you. But, so what am I, for instance? Okay, so when you say, what am I, there's an infinite number of sovereign souls habitating this body. I mean, everything is alive, for crying out loud. Every blood, every cell of my body, if you take it out of my body and put it under a microscope, I mean, you could put nutrients in it and grow whatever it is you're going to grow off of it, or you can kill it, or you can see it, it'll move without, I mean, and so what am I? What am I? So it's like a general in a military. He's controlling an entire division of military personnel and everything. But each soldier is an independent person, but he controls the entire military theater as a general in that particular instance of what I'm trying to express. So what am I? I'm like a general. There is no such thing as me in regards to you can cut into my head and find John. There's no way to pull me out of this physical body. But I'm controlling this physical body. I am the one that's making my voice and my brain, and I'm controlling my arms, and I can make my hands do this. I am the one that's controlling, forcing, cajoling, hoping. I'm the person that is orchestrating this physical body to function as a single unit, when in fact it's not a single unit. Okay, so a baby in a mother's womb is just another organized system. Like, for instance, you could take a heart out of a human being, and the heart doesn't need muscles from the knee to function. It functions as a single unit within the body, and It's sovereign, so to say, as a heart muscle. Albeit much more complex, a baby inside a mother's womb is an independent, sovereign, biological unit, but it doesn't have a spirit. So if you kill it, that's not murder, because murder, in a sense, is the causing the life of a spirit to leave a body. But of course, they can't discuss that in terms in this world because they're too hung up on ignorance of not knowing what the hell they're even talking about. And so they argue from a foundation of ignorance that you're killing or murdering or whatever, maybe because it suits their needs. I don't know why they do, but they don't know what they're talking about. So, yeah, there's that. One other thing I was going to talk about that's controversial is in, this is kind of off the subject, but in gays and lesbians, for instance. You have two lesbians, two women. They are both reincarnated from being men in a former incarnation. And they've had a very strong inclination towards being men. And then they're incarnated as a woman. And they find themselves in a woman's body. And so one woman is looking at the other woman and is attracted to the woman because it's a physical body of a woman. And this woman is attracted to this woman because this woman is a physical body. Every gays and lesbians, it's a physical thing. It's not a spiritual thing. It's a physical thing. They are both men in women's bodies. Vice versa, men are both women in men's body, and they're both attracted to the opposite sex, even though they're not the opposite sex. Now, you could look at it and say, well, God must be some idiot, because why would he do such a thing? Well, God isn't doing anything other than allowing a situation to take place that these individuals chose to be incarnated as a woman, or vice versa. They're, I guess, how could you be an all-knowing God if you haven't experienced everything, both sides of the coin, so to say? Now, would I ever choose to be a woman? No. That's because in my physical body right now, and in my awareness as a human being, as a man, I would say, no, I would never choose to be a woman. Not that there's anything wrong with being a woman, of course not. But I'm a man, and I prefer to be a man, and that's why I'm very manly, is because I don't want to be a woman. Now, does that mean I'm never going to be a woman? Well, I would hope, with my fingers crossed, that I already was a woman in some former life, and maybe that's why I can relate to women a lot better than most men can. That's what I would hope, because I could say, well, that's in my past. I don't have to do that now. Does that make sense? So how does reincarnation play out? What is the benefit, or why does that work? Well, so maybe you could look at it this way. Where do you gain your courage as a human being? Okay, so maybe at some point you were a vicious lion in 100 million years ago, and as a lion you had to learn how to be vicious in order to survive, or to do this or to do that. So the viciousness is something that may play into being successful in your human nature to learn, spiritually speaking, how to gravitate your spirit, your soul, toward God. You have to be powerful. You can't be lazy. You can't be fearful. And so that's how that plays in. So you're not remembering what it's like as a human being, as an incarnated human being. You're not remembering the life of what it was like to be a lion, But what carried through is the essence of the lack of fear, the essence of strength or whatever is part of your spiritual DNA, so to say. Does that make sense? So everything is designed to for your growth and everything. Okay. Yeah, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about. And there might have been a few other things that I wanted to talk about that I've completely forgotten about. But yeah, it's kind of controversial about these things. Reincarnation goes on and on and on and on. And, you know, we don't have any, when I say we, I'm talking about spiritually enlightened people or whatever. We do not have any real knowledge per se to speak of beyond this earthly life or this realm that we happen to live in right now. But there certainly could be, and obviously is, life in a different form and format that might be taking place when you're done with this particular life, that you might live another life in a completely different universe, galaxy, whatever the case may be, to continue your spiritual growth in this kalpa of time. So there's that. One last thing I wanted to say about, I guess, being a reluctant guru is, again, I want to make it crystal clear. Every teacher, guru plays a role, and if their heart is and their soul is in the right place and space, then they're playing a valuable part in everyone's development. But in addition to that, what I wanted to say was, people overestimate all the time, spiritual teachers overestimate all the time their knowledge and their understandings of things, overestimate all the time. And what I mean by that is, from an enlightened point of view, which I don't know, I would guess, and I'm purely guessing on this, but my guess is based in pretty sound understandings, let's put it that way. I don't think there's more than about 10 people on this planet at this time that is fully enlightened. I don't think so. So they're few and far between. So from that perspective, you listen to people that might talk about spiritual enlightenment and that they're very knowledgeable, and et cetera, et cetera. And they might be talking about, well, your chakras, and you know, they'll try to teach you about the development of your different chakras and the this and that and everything else. And I mean, that's just one branch of spirituality. But from an enlightened point of view, it's like, you need to move on. It's like if I were to try to help them, which they would never listen to me because they would assume I'm an idiot, I would say, no, you're stuck, man. You're not going to move forward in this particular lifetime because you are too stuck. You think you know everything. You think all these chakras and everything. You don't even realize there's no such thing as chakras. I mean, there's no such thing as a human body. There's no such thing as electrons. There's no such thing as spiritual vibration. All of this stuff is illusory. It isn't real. It's an imaginary reality that you are playing in this playground arena that isn't real. But saying that, I want to make it crystal clear, that's like saying, my name is John, by the way. That's like saying, hey, John, you said nothing is real. How do you feel about dinner tonight? Oh, yes, I would like to have some dinner. Well, you said there's no such thing as reality. You said there's no such thing as dinner. It's all imaginary. And it's like, well, yeah, it is all imaginary. Well, then you don't need any dinner then, right? And it's like, well, you got a catch-22 going on here. I recognize that it's all illusory and that it's imaginary, but while I'm in this imaginary realm, if I don't feed this imaginary body will cease to exist and die, and then I can't exist within this reality in this physical body at this particular time. And so, yeah, I think I better have some food so that I sustain my life. On the same token, the spiritual teachers that are advanced in their field of study, be it they teach chakras or this or that or whatever, I'm not denying the fact that there is a reality based in that, and that it is very beneficial spiritually in many ways, shapes, or form. But make no mistake, you got to give that up at some point. But in this particular life, I get it. You're not going to give it up because you think that that's the end-all, be-all. But it isn't. You need to move on, and you need to give that up and recognize the fact that it's all illusory. There's no reality to it. You're making this up. I mean, if you think about it, since everything is illusory, whatever benefit you can possibly imagine from studying chakras, you can do it without studying the chakras. Whatever benefit comes from that, you can get it without that. It's like the gurus that say, well, you have to say these chants and you have to use these ancient Sanskrit, Hindu words or whatever. That's all bullshit. You don't have to say any, there's no sacredness to the words Om or any other thing. There's no such thing as sacredness of any of that stuff. It's all make-believe. There's no intrinsic value in pronunciation of Om or this or that. It's ludicrous because you're just making this up. It's all imaginary. Now, is there a benefit to saying the words Om in your meditation and this and that? Sure, if that's what floats your boat, then great. But instead of saying Om, you could actually sit there and get this exact same benefit by saying popcorn, or you could sit there and say my dog makes smelly farts, and you could get the exact same benefit as saying the words Om. If in your mind you interpreted popcorn as being a spiritual word that God uses or whatever. It's all imaginary. It's all make-believe. You make reality what you make it to be. And if you believe that the pronunciation of Om happens to be sacred or whatever, then yeah, you might get some benefit out of that by doing that. But you're going to have to move on beyond that at some point. That's why I say I teach things that are not in this reality and in this life. I try to teach you things that when you die and you're reincarnated again, you will be born and you'll, just like the lion story I was telling you, you learn the essence of courage and strength or whatever. You will reincarnate in some future life, remembering, oh, wait a second, the spirit of an infant, there is no such thing as a human spirit in that infant. It comes with their first breath. And then you'll think, wow, that's what reality, that makes more sense to me. Well, the reason you're thinking that is because you heard me tell you this in this particular life. You may not think that in this life, but in the next life you will if you think about it enough. I didn't have a coffee or anything. That's just the way I get when I get on these spiritual tears, so to say. Anyways, it's Sunday. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And those people and friends of mine that are in around Russia or Ukraine or any of those countries over there, be careful. Just because there's a war going on doesn't mean you have to put yourself in harm's way, and recognize the fact that not all soldiers are puppets, and they have a job to do, and they have to follow the orders. I'm getting off on a way tangent. They have to follow the orders of their commanders, et cetera, et cetera. And they may not like what they're doing, but take that back to the days of Arjuna and Krishna and stuff like that. And they have to follow what they've signed up to do and everything. And that may involve killing and mayhem and all sorts of things. But you don't have to be a part of that. You can love the soldiers and recognize that they're in a terrible situation having to fight, and recognize that the others are in a terrible situation, have to defend themselves. That's the whole, one of the points of this reality that we live in, with good and evil and everything. There's not one that is good and one side that's evil. They are both in situations that are dire. And if you're in those areas, just take care of yourself. Be careful. And if you die, or if some of your friends die, don't let that destroy you, spiritually speaking. Just recognize that that is a situation that you may not be able to have any control over whatsoever. But maybe you should read the Bhagavad Gita and re-understand what happened, and just be careful. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good day.